Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we got the WLTOYS Q303 quadcopter, and you can see that the box is basically, it's another one they sent me with the box turned inside out, and somebody mentioned it maybe because it's like a pre-sale or something like that, but I'm not too sure. I think they're just trying to save on shipping. So anyways, the box is basically inside out here, so it's going to be kind of ugly until we unbox it. So let's just break into this right away. It's basically the WLTOYS Q303 quadcopter. So let's just dig right in and unbox this so it's a little better to look at here. But anyway, this is the Q303. I will have the link down in the description of where you can check this guy out, check the current pricing, check the specs out. But basically this is the 5.8 gigahertz version. You can see, if you can see that in the box, it's got a little red check mark dot on the 5.8 gigahertz. So it's actually the Q303A WLTOYS, and it's supposed to have like a movable tilt camera on here, remote tilt camera, and it's a brushed quadcopter, 350 phantom size, but in a little bit more of a toy form. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take this out of the packaging here in the living room, since it's a little larger, and then I'm going to quickly, immediately after this, go right back to the bench, get it underneath the lights and the other Canon camera, and go ahead and just check out more in depth of what this is. So we'll just pull it out of the box right here. So basically here it is. Here's the box. I'm just going to pull the quad right out here, and you can see just it looks kind of very similar to like a X380 type of quad, but it's like a brushed version. It's got the same kind of light. Here's that camera I was telling you about, that one-axis pitchable camera with a little dampening mount here. Propellers are already mounted up and everything, so you don't have to worry about that. So we'll set that on the side for now. We'll go a little bit more in depth on that one too when we get back to the bench. Another proprietary style battery that WLTOYS is going with. So there's the battery. It looks like it's proprietary with its own little casing and like a 3-pin deal here. So again, some people are not going to mind that, but some are going to hate it. I mean, you know, I think the batteries they're making really affordable, like they're $10 or less usually on these kinds of batteries anyway. So not really a huge deal, but it's going to be harder for somebody to charge it on their hobby grade charger if they wanted to. Here's a charger it comes with, and here's a charger plug. It's actually a US version. I'm in the US, so that's convenient. I don't have to put an adapter on it. Here are the propeller guards. So 4 propeller guards. The propellers. So they're giving us 4 extra propellers. I'm also seeing a USB stick and a USB card, as well as the FPV antenna and a charger for, it looks like the FPV monitor, which is probably underneath this somewhere. Let's go ahead and take out the controller. There's the controller. It's just your basic 4-channel controller, which we'll go a little bit more in depth into. Doesn't seem like this one's going to have altitude hold, possibly, because I'm not seeing that middle spring back in the throttle here. It just goes all the way up or down and stays there. Looks like this is actually the FPV screen. So they're giving us their general WLTOYS FPV screen to attach on our controller there, and we'll be hooking all that up in a second on the bench. So anyway, that's it. That's basically everything in the box except for the instruction manual. Kind of fell down here, but we got another couple of sheets. That's how to hook up the FPV on this controller, and there's the manual. So let's go ahead and take all this stuff back to the bench, kind of look at it in depth, set it up, and then we'll be doing our flight test in this review too. This is going to be a full review all in one, with the pros and cons after our flight test. So let's go ahead and set this thing up and get ready to fly. Okay, cool guys, so here we are on the bench with the Q303, and since we already kind of unboxed everything in the living room, let's just first take a close look at the craft here. So we got this large LED light in the front. It's going to indicate our flight modes and what's going on, maybe the battery power indicator. And here we can see that we just got kind of a really similar design to an X380. It's basically the same type of shell and everything, just different kind of plastic. Very light. I'm noticing it's very light. These are brushed motors here, and we can see that the propellers and caps are all mounted up. And this one also has kind of the same system that the Q303 was, the little DJI Inspire replica I just did a review on. It looks like same kind of screw type system, so you know, that's great. We don't have to worry with any pins or anything, deal with any pins and lose those pins. So I'm glad they did that. Even though they're brushed motors, they're not going to last long or have as much power as brushless motors, but you do save on expense. So these are going to be reverse threaded and regular counterclockwise thread. So just going to give it a really quick tightening, just make sure they're all on tight. So I'd recommend doing that before you fly. But anyway, here it is. So near the back here is our battery compartment, and here's a little bit of a closer look at the battery. Can't really see the specs on the battery through this plastic, but in the manual it says it's a 7.4 volt 1500 milliamp battery. And again, this is the proprietary type connector. Not sure why they're kind of going this route with these proprietary type connectors. It's going to kind of piss off a lot of hobbyists, but I guess for the new person, they're not really going to care, you know. And these batteries aren't very expensive, but the way you just slide this battery in is you're just basically pushing it in, and it looks like it's turning on immediately once we push the battery in. So you can see the lights flashing here. I'm not seeing a switch on the bottom to turn this thing off and on. So it looks like you are just going to have to deal with pushing in the battery when you turn it on. It looks like it is kind of a neat spring-loaded system though. As you can see, pushing it in, it goes ahead and clicks and locks. And then pulling it out, I thought I was going to have to pull the battery, but you just push in this little tab here and the whole battery just kind of pops out and turns off. So even though it is a proprietary battery, it is kind of a good little slip-click system they've got going here. On the bottom here, we can see that we have the camera ports for the tilt function as well as the FPV function as well. A couple of other ports here, not sure what those are for. Maybe those are for the Wi-Fi version. This is the 5.8 gigahertz version. So we should have better video and less lag time. We'll go make sure we test that out in just a sec in our flight test. But here's our little gimbal mount, our little camera mount, dampened, so that's good. And it looks like it can slip off fairly easily. We're just pulling this thing back and the whole thing will click off if you want it to. Pushing it on in the notches and it clicks on and it's on there nice and stable. Anyway, here's our camera. It's called Phantom Vision, and they're calling it's a f2.5 150 degree field of view, it looks like. So a wide field of view camera here. There's our little SD card, micro SD card slot we're going to push in there, and our landing gear, of course. Looks like the padding, either they put it on the wrong place or the padding got pushed over to the other side of the leg, so that's kind of weird. Go ahead and pull this off and pull them around to the bottom. So I'm just going to pull these off and put them in the right spot they're supposed to be, right on the bottom of the leg. And there we go. So that's the craft in a nutshell. Pretty neat looking one. If you're an X380 fan, this is the one for you, and more of a toy grade. Anyway, here is the charging adapter. So you're going to want to slide the battery in like so, and then here's the charger, just a plain Jane little cheap charger, and then you just plug it in right here and plug this into your wall for charging the battery. Looks like it does have a status light, so that should probably be red when it's charging and green, or shut off when it's done. It is saying 7.4 volt input, 10 volt output, 7.4 volt balance charger. So it is balancing the battery since it is a 7.4 volt. Here are the propeller guards. So I'm not going to put these on because, you know, more of a intermediate flyer, but if you're a beginner, go ahead and throw these on. Let's see how they do go on. It looks like this one kind of has these little pull out stopper tabs. So you just pull it out at the end of the motor there and slide these in. Let's see how these work. So we're sliding them in and they just snap in. So nice and easy. There's no screw whatsoever to deal with. And I'm tugging on this hard and it's not popping out unless you give it a really hard tug. So very good slip lock click system. Let's go ahead and check out this other bag. So this is our 4 extra propellers. So that's great for WLTOYS, giving us 4 extra propellers. I think everybody everywhere that's selling quadcopters or any kind of flying device should always give an extra set of blades, propellers, whatever it may be. So there's 4 of them there in the package. We have our FPV antenna, which we'll be putting on in just a second. Here is our FPV screen charger. So this is going to plug into the FPV screen. And a little card reader thumb drive, USB drive, for putting it into our computer and viewing the video we get on the 4 GB micro SD card they give us in the package. So this is a 4 GB, and the way it mounts into the camera, let's see which way this goes. Sometimes this is a little bit tricky. I don't see any kind of labeling. It's not going in with the labeling on the bottom, so I'm going to flip this over so the 4 GB labeling is up towards the top of the quad, and it looks like that's the way that goes in. It just slides and clicks in. Satisfying little click. And we can see that this one does have that pitch control. So this is an actual servo, and that's going to be controlled on the controller, where we're going to get to in just a second to figure out what controls that pitch. But check that out. So you have full extension there, where it's almost directly facing down, and the full extension up is just a little bit above the horizon facing up. So that's going to be great for somebody getting into quadcopters that wants like a cheap quadcopter, doesn't want to spend too much money, but wants that capability to do remote pitch from their controller and some video. Anyways, that's that stuff there. Let's go ahead and open up the FPV screen and see what this thing's all about. Go ahead and mount it up and see how it's going to work. So here is the connector for the antenna. That nut was a little loose, so I'm just going to tighten that up a bit. And that's where this guy is going to go. You can always put on a better antenna. This is just a monopole linear antenna that's not going to give you the best range, so you can always swap this out for, say, a panel antenna if you wanted to, and that'll give you a little bit better range and stuff. Anyway, here's the screen, just kind of a plain Jane WLTOYS shiny screen. Unfortunately, there's no matte on this one, so at least they give you a sunshade. And there's really no buttons on here except for an on-off switch, and then you have your place where you're going to plug in your charger right there. So this little USB charger charges the screen, so you're going to have like a power bank, computer, or a cell phone charger plugged into your wall to use this to charge the screen. And speaking of the screen, let's see how this thing is going to mount up to this controller. So that's cool. So they actually give us a little door on top. It's a little spring-loaded door. You can see that thing springing in and out. So if you're not going to use the FPV screen, you have a little cover there. If you are going to use it, it looks like you just push this thing down in here and it snaps in. Whoops, there goes the sunshade. So this sunshade apparently is removable, just like all the rest of theirs. It just clicks in. But look at that. So a really easy slide and click in lock FPV system. Really easy to do. That was very simple. And if you want to take it out, it looks like maybe you just give it a little bit of pressure and pull it out and it just pops out. So it won't come off in normal use. Maybe if you drop it, it might fly off, but that's on there pretty good. It does give you some tilting. That's as much as it'll tilt. You can tilt it all the way down. Say if you wanted to store it and leave it on, you can tilt it all the way down, and that's as far as up as it tilts here. So we have a fake antenna. So this is not real. The antenna is somewhere inside here, so this is not doing anything. It's just for looks. Kind of a neat looking larger type controller. Still very toy grade, but it does give us that larger look. And it's got a decent, nice battery door where there's no sliding or anything. It's hinged, 4 AA's, pushes and clicks back on, really nice and tight. It's got a little speaker port here in the back. Not sure what that's for, but it feels really good in the hands. For larger hands, this is going to be a very good and comfortable controller. The left trigger button here is going to be our rates of flight. So I'm not sure how many rates it's going to have, but that's going to enable us to pitch further and roll further to go faster. And on the right hand side, this actually does flips. So you click in and you can do your flips there. Of course, this is your pitch and roll stick. So forward, back, rolling left and right. And then this is going to be our throttle. So gaining altitude, lowering altitude, and turning the head left and right here. So these are trims for your pitch and roll. This is trim for your yaw. If it's kind of out of whack, you can trim that. And then this one here, the throttle trim, is actually your camera on the bottom of the quad here, the pitch for it to go up and down. LCD screen. This right hand side is set high, so hopefully that's some kind of altitude hold. Start and stop video. This one's going to be taking photos, and the one on the left is headless mode, and press and hold for return to home. So those are all the functions. Let's go ahead and stick the batteries in here and boot it up and see if we can get the pitch on that camera to work, and then do our flight test. Alright, cool. So I got the batteries in the controller, and I'm going to push the battery in the craft. I'm going to go ahead and test the FPV too while we're at it. So turning on the FPV screen, just by pushing that power up, we see our static. And let's go ahead and turn on the craft first. So I'm going to push in this battery until it clicks, then turn on the controller. Hearing our beeping, and there's our FPV. So just took a few seconds till everything was locked in, and we can see our FPV here. So let's just see what the FPV is like, if we're going to get any kind of lag. Okay, a little bit of jitter. It seems like you're going to get a little bit of video lag once in a while. And that's kind of how all the WLTOYS that I've seen are, and they're kind of toy model quads, so that's unfortunate. But we can see the light, nice bright white headlight on the front, and then we have green light cups on the front and red in the back. Anyway, here's our camera. Whoa! Okay, so immediately you want to be careful with this. There's nothing to lock the motors, so once you turn it on, it's going to be immediately bound. So be careful. And so I'm going to push this throttle trim button up and down. I'm holding it, and check that out. So that's as far down the pitch can go, and I'm holding it, and that's as far up as it can go. So a little above horizon. You can also just do it in increments. See how you can do that, or you can just hold it. So far so good, but just again, be careful, because once you boot it up and you touch this throttle, the propellers are going to spin, so be very careful with that. So let's get this thing out to the park and do our flight test and a little pros and cons. Alright, let's go fly this thing. Okay guys, so here we are at the park, a little bit wet and just like a steady light sprinkle. We had Hurricane Lester just kind of pass to the north of us here in Hawaii, and a little bit of remnants from it, I guess. It's funny because yesterday was pretty much sunny all day. Today is Sunday, and it's a little bit overcast over here up country on Maui, but I got a lot of reviews to do, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this in a slight sprinkle. It should be okay, and it'll allow you guys to actually see the screen a little bit better in the FPV. But anyway, let's get started with the Q303 flight test. So let's just power this up. The battery just slides in and powers up, so let's get started. Turning on the FPV, you get the fuzzy screen, and then we'll just plug in this battery. It's kind of cool, it just plugs in and snaps. We can see the FPV screen came on, and then with the WLTOYS, they all just do that little sound blink tone, and then it's automatically bound. So let's go ahead and get this thing in the air and see how it is. First thing we want to do is start recording. This one's not labeled on the screen here. Got some water here, but this one's not labeled on the controls, and I believe this one is going to be the camera. Yeah, so I press the top part of this little pad here, and we have our camera ticking away on our video camera. So let's get this thing up in the air. There we go. So this is rate, I think this is rate 1. Yeah, it's blinking 40% there on the LCD screen. And the cool thing about this Q303 that I didn't notice before is check out the camera. It's got a stabilized pitch. So you can see me moving it forward and back, just the drone itself. And you can see that camera trying to keep its level, or wherever you have the camera pitched at. So that's way cool. It's not going to stabilize the left and right, obviously, so it's just like a pitch stabilization. And I didn't know that until I was kind of testing it in my garage, and I finally figured that out. But anyway, I'm finally figuring that out. But let's just give this thing a flight test. So this is full pitch forward. And you can see that lights on the back are red and the front's green. Then it has that little headlight in the front. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, let's see what we can do. So this is rate 1. That's what you can expect for the pitch and roll. And then I'll have this video up on the screen in a little box, and possibly full screen once in a while, so you can kind of get a feel for it. There's the yaw, kind of wandering away a little bit. There's maybe a little bit of a light breeze now coming from that direction. I might want to trim this forward a tad. There we go. Anyway, that's what we can expect for the yaw in rate 1. And then the left button on top here should be rate 2. So that's rate 2. You can see we got better pitch, much faster, a lot quicker for flying. The rain's kind of coming down a little more now, so hopefully all this stuff's going to be okay. Anyway, here's rate 3. This top left trigger again. So look at that pitch. So we've got plenty of pitch. Full throttle and full pitch forward is going to look like it's going to drive it into the ground. So you're going to want to be careful with that. And as far as our rate in all 3, yaw rate, it looks like it's going to be the same in all 3. So not going to change the yaw. This one has an altitude hold. So let's try this. So I'm going to kind of get the stick to a middle position. And I'm going to press this right button here. I mean, you can see the back lights are blinking. And so that's meaning it's in altitude hold. So I should be able to fly around. And it should try to maintain its altitude, which is doing fairly well. I'm just flying around here. I'm not touching the throttle. And it's doing a pretty good job. I'm going to try to bring the throttle down. And it's very slowly coming down. Very, very slowly. So when it's in that altitude hold, it's going to barely do anything. And now I've got the throttle to its middle position, and it seems like it keeps going up. So a little bit weird. You're gonna want to, let's get out of that. So if you're full throttle down and you get out of that altitude hold by pressing that button, it's just gonna drop. So be careful there. Anyway, let's go ahead and test some of the other functions here. So let me try to go into. I'm gonna be in rate 2, and I'm gonna go out here a ways. Well, I guess there's more than 2 rates. There's actually 40, 60, 80, and 100. Anyway, let's see what the range is like. So I'm going to go out here. I actually measured on Google Maps the length of this park, and it's actually where I usually go. Over by these trees is actually like 400 and something feet. So I think I was a little bit shy of that whenever I would give my measurements. So you can see that the FPV is getting a little bit fuzzy. Let me go ahead and hit altitude hold now. So we're safe in altitude hold over here, and the FPV is just dropping in and out a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and pitch the camera down, and that's the throttle trim actually. So you can see in the video that I'm pitching the camera down. That's its maximum downward angle. And I'm gonna fly out here. I'm still in FPV kind of mode. And I'm gonna fly out here over the tree, and that should be about 450 feet from me. So over the tree and still in very good control. I'm rocking it back and forth. So you're gonna have good control, I'd say up until about 500 feet, no problem. And the altitude hold is working very well. It's really starting to come down here, so I want to finish this review and get back in my car. But anyway, that's what we can expect for our range and our video. And let me go ahead and just pitch this camera back up. You can see that's the full upward pitch angle. And the altitude hold's working very well. It's just kind of hovering here. I'm not touching the altitude. And the camera looks good. I'll have that up on the screen so you can see that. So overall, really good for a, you know, kind of a toy medium kind of flyer for somebody who wants to try out FPV and have a remote pitchable camera. Let's go ahead and get out of altitude hold. And this has some other functions like headless and return to home. So let's try that. So I launched right in this direction. I'm going to actually keep it in altitude hold while I do this. And now it's just kind of going up. Let's try to bring it down a little bit if we can. Anyway, let's fly out over this way where the direction we launched from. Geez, now it's really raining. I should get this stuff out of the rain, but just gonna do it. So hitting the left, that little left button here, and that should be headless mode. So I'm pushing forward and turning, and it's actually going kind of to the back left area. So looks like the headless is gonna get a bit skewed on this one. Oh, looks like we're out of battery. Okay, so we got a little flip over. So it looks like the return to home ain't really gonna work on this one. Let me go ahead and stop the video. Alright, so at least you know this thing will deal with some rain. It's coming down pretty hard now. You can probably hear in the mic and just see how much rain is coming down. But an overall decent flyer. Range is good. The return to home and the headless look like they are going to get skewed, as you can see. That camera is really awesome for a brushed kind of toy grade quad with all this capability. The camera isn't too bad. Let me just go ahead and see if we can get a couple of pictures before we finish this review up so you can see what the pictures are like. Didn't do any flipping, but let's just try it one more time to launch. Okay, we still got some battery power. Let's try to flip it. Right trigger. Okay, so it does flip, but whoa. So I wouldn't recommend flipping, especially on a, you know, when your battery is almost exhausted. There's the light, so we're blinking on our blinking lights here. And I kind of wanted to take some pictures. There's a picture. Okay, so it did cut off the whole throttle and everything just shut off, and it looks like the whole quad actually shut off. So at least I got like a couple pictures you could see. So you can see the FPV is now fuzzy and the whole quad just shut itself off. So it gave me only like maybe, I don't know, 10 seconds of low voltage blinking lights, and then the whole thing is now shut off. I don't think that was because of the rain or anything. That was just because of the low voltage. So, you know, as far as continuing on with the pros and cons, headless and return to home are going to be a bit skewed. FPV looked great out at range, you know, started getting just a little bit fuzzy out there at like 450 to 500 feet, but I was still in full control. Didn't even drop at around 450 to 500 feet, so that'll be a good indication. I think it's pretty good with this camera. It stabilizes, it tries to keep its horizon. It's not that good. You can kind of see in the video, I'll have it on the bottom of the screen, where it's a little bit lagging on how fast it kind of keeps up with the pitch, but it still tries to keep its horizon wherever your camera's at, and that's also way cool how you can adjust the pitch. So anyway, guys, hope you liked that review. I got to get out of this rain. This is ridiculous, and I guess I got to try again with my other quads. I got a whole bunch I need to review, and weather's not cooperating too great here in Hawaii with these hurricanes coming by. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Thanks for watching.